All right, folks, so let's get down to the nitty gritty today. We're drawing trend lines and we're trying to help you understand the difference between using date time points and bar time points. So we can use either one of these. We can use bar numbers or we can use date time points. Okay, so, and I learned a little bit while I was putting this together. So this is my second time kind of going around it, which is a little bit interesting. So when you're working with a swing high, so we're going to be using the swing high to identify these points here. And I think we're just going to identify this point and this point. So we have at least roughly 6 bars on either side. So we should have 6 bars on one side, 6 bars on the other side. On this one, we'll have 6 bars on one side, 6 bars on the other side. Okay, but the swing high function that I use, and I might have to create a whole other function. I have to figure out what I want to do. But when you use the swing high function, if you come over here and you go just do swing high, there is a native TradeStation function that allows you to find the pivot if it has equal strength. Now, there is a pivot that you can use that has maybe 5 on one side and 4 on the other, but this is a equal strength pivot. Okay, so the first one is the instance. So do we want to find the first instance of a swing high or the next instance of a swing high? And we're going to start closest to us, right? So if we're on this last bar, then we're going to say, do we want to find this first instance of a swing high or do we want to find the second instance of a swing high? Okay, so and how many bars back are we looking? And this is the strength, of course, but how many bars back are we looking? So the function that I've put together that I've been using for quite a long time. So like I said, I have to rethink how I use it moving forward. But it was my understanding that this length here needed to be at least as long as the strength, right? So the function that I created has the strength here and then 1 plus, okay? So while I was putting together this program here, I got a max bars back error and I couldn't figure out what was going on. And now I get it, because if we're on this bar on the chart here and we want to say, all right, well, give me a 1, 2, 3, 4, give me a swing high up with 5 bars on one side, 2, 4, yeah, with 5 bars on either side of it, then it will give you this if you're looking back at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you look back at least 5 bars, it will give you this swing high with 5 bars on either side. Okay, but you can go back and say, give me a look back 10 bars, and it'll put you down here and say, give me the 5 bar swing high within 10 bars. Give me the most recent one. That'll be this. Okay. So, but if you go back this far, if you go back all the way 10 bars, it will look on this 10th bar to see if this is a valid swing high. But it's looking, if this is the pivot point here, then it has to look 1 bar, 2 bars, 3, 4, 5 to the right, and it has to look 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to the left. Okay, so when you're setting your max bars back, if you're going to look back 10 bars, you need to add another 5 to this max bars back to get this total look back range. And that's where I got off at. So again, I learned something. Again, I am not a professional. I'm not a professional financial advisor. I'm not a professional programmer. I'm not your financial advisor, but I learned things along the way and I want to share them with you. Okay, so let's go ahead and get to it. We're going to say if date is equal to current date and time is greater than 09, come on, work with me. All right, so we're going to say if we have a swing high if we have a swing high of 6, then we're going to plot a high. So if swing high of 6 bars exists, then plot 51 high red. Okay, so since we're using 6 bars, the way I have my function set up is it's going to look back 7 bars. So it's going to, and Yeah, okay, it's going to look back 7 bars. Okay, so when it looks back 7 bars, it will give us at least this 6-bar range here. Okay, and so we have to add another 6 bars onto the other side. So at least our 6 bars plus another 6 will give us 12. Let's put 13 for our look back. All right. So we're going to make properties. We're going to make this 13. Then we're going to come over here. This is another something I mentioned earlier is quickly modifying this. Okay, user defined 13. Okay, and now we don't have any errors. Look at that. All right, so now we have our swing highs, but our swing highs are offset by 6 because we can't identify that this is a 6-bar swing high until we get 6 bars out. So when we plot this, we need to plot, we'll offset it by 6. And then we need the high of 6 bars ago. Okay, so there we go. All right, so that's how we identify that. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to say that if we have a 6-bar swing high, then we're going to use that as a point to make a trend line. So again, I would advise being able to identify your points first before you try to make your trend lines, unless you're just a really good programmer and you don't make errors, which I'm not that. So what we're going to say is, how do we identify that this and this will be our swing high points? Well, both these are bears. This is a bull. This is a bear, though. But we'll say that if we have if it's a bear, yeah. So if that bar ago is a bear, so if we do have a swing high within that last 7 bars look back, then we're going to plot this. But we also need to say, is it a bear? So if this is a swing high and bear of 6 bars ago, okay, so now that 6 bar ago, that 6 bar ago high is a bearish candle. All right, hang on for 2 seconds. All right, let's see, just want to make sure that nothing is moving. Nothing is moving. So we have a little bit of action in our, look at this. Look at this. Would you look at this? I don't know why I don't trade this. These blue dots, these swing lows with volume. Anyway, we'll get to that another time. Okay, all right. So let's go. Now that we have our swing highs, now we need to not identify this one here. This swing high here, it does have a low lower than the bar before it. This one does not have a low lower than the bar before it. This one does have a low lower than the bar before it. So how else can we identify it? The close here is above the open here. The close here is above the open here. The close here is below the open here. So we'll say that not only does it have to be a bear, but also, and the close of that 6 bars ago, it's got to be less, nope, greater than greater than the close of the bar before it, which will be 7 bars. What did I do? All right, so and the close of 6 bars ago is greater than close of 7 bars ago. Isn't that right? Yes, the close is greater than the, greater than the open, I'm sorry. All right, there we go. Okay, so now we've identified, we've been able to isolate these 2 swing highs here. Okay, so now from those 2 swing highs, the question is, how do we draw a trend line using either a BarNumber point or a DateTime point? So we're going to use a couple namespaces using system dot drawing and using EL system dot drawing objects, and then we'll have a couple variables that might help us here, which is DT point. Oh, and that is actually just, I think that is using tsdata.common actually, the DT point. We'll call it DTP null. We'll have DTP start and DTP end. DT point, DTP E for N. Okay, so now if we're on the last bar on the chart, then let's plot these two. So if last x, then once. I'll tell you what, in order to capture these two, let's capture them in something. I'll tell you what, let's just just trying to think of how to want to do this on the fly. All right, so we could do a vector that would save the high and the bar number. I'll tell you what, that's how I'm going to do it. That's how I do it a lot of times. I mean, you could use probably an array, you could use a vector, you could use dictionaries, you could just use multiple variables, but I'm going to use a vector. So we're going to using EL system.collections, and then we'll have a vector v highs, v high. I'm going to put v high p for point because we're going to use DateTime point or a BarNumber point. And then that's going to be null. And then we'll have vector of the v values to hold the high. Okay, so if we do have this being true, then instead of only plotting, we're going to also store v val dot insert. I'm going to insert what, the high of that many bars ago, as well as we're going to v high point, whatever that point is, will be that insert 0, the bar number of 6 bars ago. So we're going to obviously with this we're going to start with the bar number point. And so let's put some bar number points up here. BN point, BNP start, BN point N. All right, okay, so again, we're starting here with the bar number point. So when we've found a high, we've saved the high, and we also want to save the bar number that is set. So then when we get to the last bar on the chart, we can draw our trend line. So to draw our trend line, we need to have 2 points. So first of all, we need to have something that identifies an object of a trend line, which is trend line, T line, null. And then we're going to have T line is equal to trend line dot create, and we're just going to have 2 points. One of them is going to be the bar number point of the start, and one of them is going to be the bar number point of the end. So we go ahead and create those first. We'll say the BN bar number point start is equal to BN point dot create. You see we have a bar number here and a price. Now what is the bar number? The bar number is going to be what we saved into this point here. That's the bar number. So it doesn't matter for a trend line. You can do first or last, last or first. It doesn't really matter because it's drawing a point. It's drawing a connection between one point and the next point. Okay, so in order to get one of the values in this vector, we're just going to say v high point at the first index at 0. As type, it is a bar number, so it's a double. And then what is the price? The price will be what we put in the value. Now we could have done this all in one vector, and we could have made a string of the bar number, then the high, and then we would have used a token list and that kind of thing to pull it out. But like I said, you can make this as complex as you want to or as simple as you want to. All right, so vval at that same pair. I mean, it's a pair. We are putting this information in as a pair. So that's a good thing about vectors is it's like a stack. So it'll hold those values as long as you don't erase them asymmetrically. So v-value is also as type a double because it's your high. Okay, so that's it for your first bar number point. Then we need to do the same thing for your endpoint. And this will be in the first index. Okay, and now you can just take bar number point of start and bar number point of end. Bn point start, bn point end. And then you're going to add it to your chart. You expecting a semicolon? Where? Begin, end, bn point, that, point that create, that T line, trend line, oh, up here. Object, let's see. So we didn't because we already are using our vectors, but we haven't yet said, let's bring the vectors onto the chart. So we've declared the vectors up here, and we're using the vectors here, but we haven't said, oh, use your vectors, which is, that's a thing of itself. But again, I'm not a programmer, so I'm sure programmers would be like, oh yeah, that's makes sense. You don't want to declare stuff and then use I don't know. So anyway, I just try to follow the rules. So we have a new vector, and we have v high equals new vector. V high underscore p. Okay, no errors. Come back over here. Let's turn it on. And now we have an issue where we integer to double. What is an integer? Oh, the bar number. Bar number is not a double. It's an integer. Okay, so we need to, wherever we use the bar number for the point to create our point type is here. That's an integer. Okay, let's try it again. Okay, so now we have something. We have a trend line here, and it's not at the right place. You see it's offset. It's offset by a certain number of bars. Why is it offset by that number of bars? Well, because we're using, and the price is right, but the location is wrong. And why is the location wrong? I believe it has to do with the max bars back setting. Okay, so when we have found that we had a new swing high, this bar numbers will thoroughly confuse you. I promise you. But the bar number is, what we talked about when we were talking about the max bars back setting of 13 or so. So when you go to the beginning of the chart, the chart will use so many of these bars, the max bars back. It will have a bars back number, whether it be 13 or whether it be whatever. And then so from there, this bar number is 1, 2, 3, 4. So the bar numbers really start counting here when you're just counting by bar numbers. But then when you're looking at the bar number point over here, it wants the entire bar number. It doesn't want you to start from, it doesn't want this to be 1 here. It wants this to be 1. And so these things have a funny way of not not lining up the way that you would think they would. You would think that it would just be one way and you wouldn't have to worry about max bars back and all that kind of thing. Again, I'm sure there's a reason for it. I can't articulate it. So what we're going to do is we're just going to say, hey, so when we find this swing high here, it's not going to be the bar number of just the bar number of 6 bars ago. It's going to be the bar number of it's going to be the max bars back -1 -6. Okay, and so it's going to be bar number plus max bars back -1 -6. Okay, and it's doing that because, like I say, you can't identify that you're on this bar number until you're 6 bars out. So you have to subtract 6 to get to this number. Same way we did here. Okay, this is 6 bars back. So the bar number is going to be -6 off gate. Okay, and then you have to start with whatever bar number you're currently on, which is whatever bar number this is. This is the bar number, and so you have to subtract -6. Okay, but you also, in order to account for the max bars back, you have to add the max bars back, and then there's an offset of 1. I could have told you how we get that offset a long time ago, not now. But anytime you run into this error, this issue, you need to add max bars back and subtract 1. Okay, so now you get the right trend line there. All right, and so then if you want to modify that trend line to extend right, it's true, so it extends right. Okay. Now again, if you want to not extend it right, then you do that. And then let's see, we're doing this if we're the last bar on the chart. So we'll say if the time is greater than 1335, time is greater than or equal to 1335, then let's see. Then once we're going to create our line. 1335. Well, let's see. 1335. Time's greater than or equal to 1335. Oh, and it's the current day. Okay. So now you get that. Okay, so now if we want to continue extending this line for every bar that we're on, we'll just say that if T line exists and time is greater than 1335, time is greater than 1335, and time is less than, we'll go as far as 1355, time is less than 1355, then begin. So we can't just do extend right now. I mean, we could. Oh. We could, but it's just going to extend right. If you wanted to change this endpoint to wherever you're currently at, then you need to do something like set the endpoint. And because and I promise you, this will cause you a lot of headache too. Because you started using bar number point, you now need to, whenever you set the new endpoint, you need to use a bar number point. You can't switch to a DT point midstream. So you do tline dot set endpoint, and then you need another bar number point or a date time point. But it doesn't tell you that you have to use the same one. Okay, so we're going to use BEndpoint, and here we're just going to do it on the fly. BEndpoint.create. What bar number and what price? Well, we're going to use the current bar that we're on, bar number that we're on. And let's look at the difference here between doing a bar number and the bar number plus max bar spec minus 1. So we're going to do bar number, and then we're going to do the high. And another parentheses. Boom. Okay, so now you see the difference here, though, right? This is the difference between what was our start point and what was our end point. Okay, so we changed one of the points. Just so happens it looks like we changed our start point. What was on the chart as our start point. So let's make sure that our start point is this first point, which when you use a vector and you are inserting, when you insert into the 0 place, you're pushing the last value back. So now this is the most recent value. The most recent value is whatever happened most recent. The value closer to 0, the lowest index, is what happened most recently. So this will be 0 index, this will be 1 index. So the 1 index should be your start point. Okay, so when we go to start point, that should be 1. And this will be 0. And now it'll look different. Verify. Okay, so now what we have is we are on bar, the last bar that we should have run into would have been 1350. So it would have took us to here. And that high right here is aligned with this value here. But this trend line isn't coming over here to 1350. Why, you say? Because this funky bar number situation. Because the bar number that we have here is not accounting for the max bars back minus 1. So we need to say max bar number plus max bars back minus 1. Verify. Now you see it runs it over there. And then we can still do our tline.extend right equals true. Okay. So that's how you do that. That's how you move your trend line as the chart goes. And that is using the bar number point. Now that we have everything pretty much set in place, it's easy because the logic is mostly the same when it comes to creating the points. But when you're doing it with a date time point, you want to, let's see, instead of inserting this stuff here, we're going to insert, we still want the high, we just now need to insert the date time information. So instead of a bar number, we'll use the, and we need it of 6 bars back, but we need the bar date time of 6 bars back. And now here you can use of 6 bars back, and you don't have to worry about using the max bars back setting. Again, the max bars back and all that kind of stuff, that's really important when you're dealing with bar numbers. When you're dealing with the bar itself and you're grabbing like the date time from it, you don't have to do that same jazz. Okay, so we've inserted the bar date time here. Now instead of this being a BEndpoint, we're going to copy this, we're going to encapsulate it, and then we're going to move it down. Instead of bar number point, this is DT point start, DT point end. So now we need to do DT point, and this is a DT point. And so we're going to use the, let's see, date time point is going to need the bar date time, which is, yep, it's already stored in here, and this is already stored in here. And it'll give us the bar date time, and that's pretty much all we should need. Except for here, we're going to, instead of referencing the bar date information, we're going to reference the date time information. Date time point start, date time point end. Okay, and whenever we are I'll show this to you first, and then I'll show you how it can get messy um, if you change the points. All right, so what do we have here? DT point.create DTPS point.create. Bar date time will take, well, so now when you're dealing with bar date time, this is not going to be an integer. This is going to be a double, if I'm not mistaken. All right, so this has got to be a double. Because the bar date time is using you know what? Bar date time. Bar date time is going to be a date time object. So it's not going to be that easy. All right. Yeah, because again, this is a double here, and it's expecting a date time, essentially an object. Bar date time. So can we recreate a date time object from a bar date time? The answer is yes. How we do it is interesting. Date time DTE, date time DT start. And some of the times you say, you know what, this is just not worth the squeeze. This is just not worth it. Yeah, and well, I mean, depending on what you're doing, it might not be. DT start is going to be date time dot create. You know what? We'll create it all the way. This date time is funny because it doesn't want to be modified once you create it. It doesn't want to be modified with one parameter. You can recreate the entire thing with both the date and the time, but if you try to just change one, then it will give you an error, give you funky information, which again, that's not something that's in the help file. So you just kind of have to know it. You have to go through the heartache and pain of it. All right, so DTE is going to be equal to datetime dot create. And why isn't that coming up? Date time. Huh, still not coming up. Well, I think that's because you don't create the date. Let's see. Using EL system. Use that namespace. That's for your date time. Date time. There you go. That create. And let's see if we can do it just directly from EL date and time, which is what you should get from the bar date time. All right. Should be a EL, EasyLanguage, kind of legacy bar date time. So date and time. No, I don't want to do it that way either. Dot from EL date. You see, you can break it up and create it all at once. We're going to do that. We're just going to create it. I think this is the way I've done it before. DTS equals datetime.create. And then, so for DTE, you do DTE dot, and then you can go down and then not to string. equals DateTime X, this one here. I think we can get away with doing it this way. And so we're going to drag this, the end. No, this is the end. This is a double, and this is a double. This EX here, DateTime EX is a double. But like I say, it doesn't like being modified after the point, after the fact. But I think it plays well with this design. Okay, so now we can insert just the DateTime object, the DateTime DTE and DTS. DTS, DTE. From DateTime to double. From DateTime to double. BarDateTime here. And so from here, we're taking this BarDateTime, this object, and we need to, because you know what? I wonder, can this vector hold a DateTime object? And I don't know. Because that's what we're doing here. We're taking this BarDateTime object and we are assigning it to a double, which it doesn't like. So this is DTE. This is the last one. And then this is the DTS. And then this would be as date time. And then if that works, if that were the case, we wouldn't need this, and we just hit verify. Wow, that does work. Interesting. Okay. So, but again though, your vectors are pretty cool. I really do like your vectors. And you know what? The vector can hold objects because I hold trend lines and rectangles. I hold all kinds of objects in vectors. Why I would think that it wouldn't hold a BarDateTime? Not sure. But if that didn't work, then like I said, you could have saved this to a string, and then converted the string into a DateTime object. Something like I think it's string to DateTime. That right there, and then you're asking for the DateTime. And so in the DateTime, you put the DateTime in there. If you were to make that a string, then that would be your DateTime. So if you made that a string something and it said something like BD string, then you would, and that was your variable, then you just say BD string. And then since that's now a DateTime, you could assign your DTS. We'll say your DateTime start is equal to the string.DateTime BD string DateTime start. So that would be your BD string. To get the start point, that would be of 1 ago. So we would say B high of P of 1. But that is a BarDateTime. So in order to get that to a string, we need, Yeah, I mean, it takes it through more steps, which is more cumbersome, but I just want to make sure that we can navigate through it. So we're going to save that as a string. So start string. So we're going to say start string is going to be equal to this, what's in this vector, as type, nope, as type date time. Yeah, so I mean, essentially we'd be saving this as a date time and then converting it to a string and then converting it back to a date time, which it doesn't make sense. So, but if we wanted to, we could do it. We just need a temporary date time temp dt. No? And then we say that temp dt is equal to this date time object, and then we'll say that we convert we convert this temp dt into a string, dt dot to string, and then we take this string of date time and we would convert from a string back to a date time to our DTS, and then our DTS goes in here because that is a date time object. This is our date time end object. If I hit verify, everything will fall apart. All right. Double to date time. Double to date time. Dum. Where are you doing that at? I don't think you're doing it there. I think you're doing it on line 39. No, you're doing it on line 40. Cannot assign double to date time. Double to date time. Okay, so here we're assigning string to a date time, and this should be a string. It is because we said take the temp date time from the date time, unless maybe here we're saying we're trying to assign this to a date time and it's saying it's a double. Bar date time is a date time though. So, all right, where else? Date time here, DTS is a date time object. DTS is a date time. And we're putting our date time object here, and then our double for vval. That double there is fine. String to date time. Cannot assign double to date time. I would think if this were truly the problem, then it would say that this method was overloaded. The other thing, if the issue is that we're assigning, this is a date time, and it could be saying that we're trying to assign this to a date time, and it's saying that this is a double. But again, like I said, this is the problem with doing more than you should be doing. This is the problem of doing extra. Okay, so let's go back to I like to do extra because it helps me understand exactly what's going on and cement things in. All right, so string to date time. Temp DT is a date time. DTS is a date time. So what if we just said temp DT? What if we just said that date time is equal to temp DDT? Temp TDT. Temp temp DT. All right, so there's no errors with that, and that gave us the right trend line. But we knew that because that's the same thing as just putting this down here. All we did was just went through an extra step of assigning this to a temp, the temp to the date time start, and then putting that down there. But we want to make it an extra step where we go from here to here and then turn this into a string and then turn the string back to a date time assigned to here. And that it doesn't like. But string to date time. You know what? This string to date time, that's right. And I'm sure I have it in my notes. This string to date time here, even though, and that's why I say this is some of the, what I consider to be a little problematic with EasyLanguage is, yeah, easy. It's not all easy because you would think that when you're working with date time, because now you're working with date time, you would think that they're the same. You're converting this string to an object. You're not converting this string. This is not an object. This is not a date time object. This is a date time string, or I guess a date time double. This turns this into a double. And so you could, now that you have the double though, you could say date time start dot el date time ex, because this is the double of this date time. So you're converting this string to a date time double, and you're taking this double and making it equal to the double of this date time object. Crazy, I know. All right, let's see what issues we had here. Okay, no instance of an object. That's because we're using a kind of like a internal variable of this object, and we haven't yet established what this object is. So we have to do like a DTS equals new date time. But this is where typically I found that this doesn't like to be created and then modified right here. And I think that this is okay to give it the whole bit of information. So this date time X has both the date and the time. But if you wanted to just only modify the date and not the time, or say you said that the date was the same day and you just need to modify the time, you just need to update the time, and you just want to do DTS dot el time equals 0900. If you do something like that, it will completely screw this up. So you can't do, it doesn't like for you to do just the one or the other. It wants you to do the whole shebang. Okay, so you need to figure out how to recreate the whole shebang instead of just only modifying one parameter, whether it be the time or whether it be the date. You need to figure out how to change the whole shebang. All right, so now we have that. Okay, so now this is what I promised you before, is that now we can extend if the trend line is true and it's after 1335 and before 1355, then we're going to extend to the right. So that's fine. We just extended the line that's already there, but we didn't change the endpoint. So now let's change the endpoint, right? Verify. Oh man, that is crazy. Why is that crazy? That's crazy because you're using a BarNumber point to change this endpoint. You need to use a DateTime point. I know. When you think you've got the hang of this, and then now all of a sudden you see these trend lines going crazy directions, you rethink whether or not you want to use EasyLanguage. I know. So this is how you do it. DT point. Okay. And now if we're in these times and our last bar, it's got to be less than 55. So it will be the 50 bar. It will be this bar. So how do we create a DateTime point from the 1350 bar? Well, DateTime point.create. We're going to use the bar DateTime of that bar that we're on. And remember, this is an object. This is not a double. Bar DateTime, and then we're going to use the high of that bar that we're on. Okay. Now when we verify, look at that. Beautiful. Beautiful. Okay, so again, this has been a long way through it. I've kind of worked through some debugging along with you, but that's why I like doing this part of programming, the teaching part. If I can teach it, then I know it. This is not an informational where I just say, hey, here it is, you can copy it. This is a bit of teaching. So again, I'm learning while I'm teaching, but I hope that you get something out of it. If you do, by all means, leave a comment or reach out to me at successfromstress@gmail.com or come on over to the website at successoverstress.net. I'm Eric. I'm out. Peace.